They call it the Mangler. Nobody knows where it came from, and nobody knows how it works. All I know is that I saw it once, and it's never left me alone since. It started when I took the wrong turn on my way home. The sun was setting, bleeding red light over the city, and the streets felt thinner somehow, like they were folding in on themselves. I don't even remember the name of the street I ended up on. It had no signs, no people, just the low hum of distant machinery and the smell of burnt metal. That's when I saw it. At first, it looked like a massive hunk of rusted machinery, the kind you'd see abandoned in an old factory. It had jagged edges, spinning gears, and pistons that moved without rhythm or purpose. It breathed steam, the air around it shimmering with heat. And there was this deep, grinding sound that you didn't just hear, you felt. I should have left. Anyone sane would have. But I couldn't stop staring. It wasn't just machinery. There was something wet beneath the rust, patches of raw, pulsing flesh fused with the metal, like the machine was trying to grow a body but didn't know how. And the eyes, God, the eyes, there were dozens of them. Some were human, others animal, and others something else entirely. They blinked in unison, and when they locked onto me, I swear I felt my skin crawl. I turned to run, but the street was gone. There was only the Mangler, closer now, filling my vision. Its gears spun faster, the grinding louder, and I realized it wasn't just a machine. It was alive, hungry. The air pulled toward it like a giant breath, and the ground beneath me shook. Then I heard the screaming. It wasn't coming from me. It was coming from inside the Mangler. Voices, dozens, maybe hundreds, twisting and wailing as if they were being crushed and stretched and twisted all at once. I felt it in my bones, my teeth vibrating with the sound. Somehow I ran. I don't remember how I got out or how I found my way home. I only remember collapsing in my apartment, my body shaking, my ears ringing. For weeks I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. The Mangler, the eyes, the gears grinding flesh and bone into something new. I thought it was over. I thought I was safe. Until the day I found the gear on my doorstep. Small, rusted, wet. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. And now, every time I close my eyes, I hear the screaming again. Louder, closer. The Mangler isn't done with me yet. I didn't touch the gear. I couldn't. It sat there on my doorstep, glistening faintly in the dim light of my hallway, like it was waiting for me to acknowledge it. I closed the door, locked it, and shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. But even then, I could feel it through the walls, through the wood and the plaster, a faint, pulsing presence. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow in my apartment seemed sharper, darker, like it was waiting to swallow me whole. The sound started around 3 a.m., a faint grinding, deep and low, like heavy metal dragging across concrete. It was outside my window. I pulled back the curtain an inch, just enough to peek through. It was there. Not the whole Mangler, just a piece. A mass of shifting machinery and sinew, smaller than before but unmistakable. It crouched in the alley below my window, its gears spinning lazily, its pistons hissing out steam. One of its eyes, a single, lidless orb, was staring directly at me. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. The grinding grew louder, almost like it was laughing. Then, as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. The silence was worse. I spent the next day in a haze, jumping at every sound, every shadow. The gear was still on my doorstep when I left for work, and it was still there when I came back. But something was different. It had grown. The thing was larger now, the edges sharper, the pulsing more pronounced. It was almost as if it were feeding. I didn't know what to do. I tried to ignore it, pretend it wasn't there, but it didn't matter. Over the next few days, the gear kept growing, twisting, sprouting more parts. A tiny piston here, a jagged tooth of a gear there. By the end of the week, it was the size of a basketball, and the screaming had started again. It wasn't loud at first, just faint whispers at the edge of my hearing. But it grew louder, more insistent, until it filled my apartment, drowning out my thoughts. I could hear the voices now, clearer than ever. They weren't just screams. They were words, phrases, fragments of pleading and begging and threats. Help us. Please, God, help us. You can't run. You can't hide. It's coming. I started seeing things too, glimpses of the Mangler in reflections in the corner of my eye. It was always just out of reach, just on the edge of perception. But I could feel it, closer, watching. I tried to get rid of the gear. I threw it in the dumpster behind my building, drove it to the edge of town and tossed it into the river, even buried it in.